Welcome to Wannabe Clutter Free, formerly Wannabe Minimalist, the podcast for busy families who are tired of the chaos, fed up with being overwhelmed, and ready to enjoy life again. Each week, we talk about how to let go of the clutter so that you can focus on the things that actually matter. And it's not just physical clutter. We talk about the mental and emotional stuff too, because if it's holding you back, it's time to ditch it. I share what I've done in my own life to declutter, organize, and calm the chaos, but you won't just hear it from me. There are amazing guests too. It's practical, doable, and simple for those of us that want to be clutter-free. Well, hey there, my friend. Welcome back to the show. I'm Deanna Yates, and you are listening to episode 212 of the Wannabe Clutter Free podcast. On today's episode, I am chatting with Alicia Cohen about taming our to-do lists. So if you have ever been overwhelmed by your to-do list or too overwhelmed to even create one, well, you are going to love today's episode. If you like what you hear today, share it with a friend. That helps you get an accountability partner on your decluttering and organization journey. And today they're going to be able to help you with your to-do list. Alicia gives us some really good tips, and it would be nice to have a partner along the way to help you kind of bounce those ideas off of. So definitely reach out and share this with a friend if they could also use some help with their to-do list. All right, I will leave links in the show notes, or you can go to wannabeclutterfree.com/212 to get more information. Again, that's wannabeclutterfree.com/212. All right, that's enough housekeeping. Let's learn about my guest this week. Alicia Cohen is a productivity expert specializing in prioritization and time management. She built her business, Alicia Cohen Designs, based on her own journey of overcoming her overwhelmed and frazzled life, what she calls the hamster wheel marathon. And now she teaches others the methods that she discovered and uses personally. With Alicia's support, busy people learn intentional planning, effective productivity, and high-impact mindset shifts that enable them to transform from constantly feeling behind to designing lives that work and feel good. Alicia is based in the U.S., where she lives with her husband and 3 children. She finds great joy in homeschooling her children and marvels at how blessed she is. Give this episode a listen, and when you're done, click into those show notes for today's episode to get the links to Alicia's free workshop that she talks about and her other resources. And also, we're going to talk about some digital tracking tools, and those are mentioned there as well. All right, now let's get to our conversation. Well, hey, Alicia, welcome to Wanna Be Clutter Free. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Deanna. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited for our conversation.
Me too. This is going to be a good one. We have been chatting before this, as I tend to do with my guests, but we will make sure that we bring in all of that goodness that we were chatting about before to this conversation. But before we get there, for people that don't know you, that didn't attend the first summit in January or have just learned about me since then, because you were one of my speakers at my first summit in January, the Chaos to Calm Summit. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so hey, everybody. I am Alicia Cohen. I'm the owner and creator of Alicia Cohen Designs. I am a productivity expert specializing in prioritization and time management. And I love talking about to-do lists, which we're getting into here today. So I'm super excited about that. I teach busy women, busy moms, how to transform the way that they relate to their time, this constantly feeling behind, constantly feeling exhausted, constantly feeling overwhelmed. Let's take that and transform that into a place of ease where we are designing lives that just work well and feel great to be living. That's how I support women, support moms. And that's what I get really excited about. That's what I teach. And that's what I do in my business. And I'm a mom, I'm married. My husband and I, we have 3 fantastic kids, and I homeschool. That's another little tidbit about me. And yeah, I'm excited to be here.
I love it. Busy mama who's walking the walk, which is one of my favorite things. When I have people on, I make sure that I have guests that actually are doing the things that they're talking about. I want to make sure it's not all philosophy and that it actually works in real life. And I love what you said there about actually like having it so that life works for you and with you. And it doesn't have to be this chaotic, system. Let's make it work. Let's make it something we are excited to do every day, like life, right? Like let's make life a place we want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like that's why I say, like, let's do let's do this work so that we are having lives that work well and feel great to be living. Let's not just be productive for the sake of being productive. I mean, that's cool. Like it does feel good to get things accomplished. But in my mind, I have a membership called the More Than Productivity membership because I believe like, yeah, productivity is cool, but also more than productivity is what matters. And so I want to be encouraging people to, yeah, be productive and let's do that well, but let's do that well so that we can have lives that work well, so that we can have lives that feel great, so that we can focus on what really is important to us, what matters to us, what we care about. So I get all excited and jazzed up about that.
It's going to be a good conversation today. All right, so let's jump into to-do lists, right? Why do you think we are so attached to to-do lists? I think they are kind of the de facto thing that a lot of us go to. So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so why are we attached to them? I think we're so attached to them because we have told ourselves, or, we're taught, you got to eat your vegetables and then you can have your dessert, right? And so I think what we think is the to-do list is the vegetables. That's the vegetables. And I have to finish my to-do list in order to have dessert. And dessert is spending more time with my kids, spending more time with my spouse or partner, taking good care of myself, spending time on a hobby, relaxing, sleeping, whatever. We need to do the to-do list first, the vegetables, in order to have the dessert. But what if we've got it backwards? And what if actually what I'm calling dessert, the time with the spouse, kids, self, hobbies, blah, 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 all that, right? What if those are the vegetables? We need to do that first so that we can then do the dessert of like getting things done, right? Because I think we get so attached to our to-do list because we tell ourselves, oh, I have to get it all done so that I can finally do XYZ that I really want to be doing. But no, I can't do that until the other stuff is done first. Well, if that's how we're approaching it, then we're living lives where we feel stuck. We're not really having as much joy as we might be having otherwise. And so we're so attached to those results because we're telling ourselves, okay, well, I have to like be good and like do what I'm supposed to do in order to have what I want. But I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. I believe that both can and need to exist together in order for it to work. But yeah, that's where that attachment comes from. It's because we've got this mindset where we're thinking it has to be and look this certain way. Like that's how people get stuff done. That's how people do it all, quote unquote. That's how people are achieving whatever. No, because I believe actually there's a different goal when it comes to to-do lists, which if you'd like to, we can get into that if you'd like. But there's a different goal that I feel like we need a mindset shift. And that's what we need to be going after. That's what we need to be pursuing. And when we do that, it's a whole different, it's like a paradigm shift, right? And it's a whole different way of being in life. It's a whole different way, like relating to productivity, relating to your to-do list. And then that whole, like what you said about the attachment piece, it shifts that and it really turns it on its head, I feel, in the way that I think about productivity and to-do lists.
Interesting. It reminds me of like in my 20s, I was really into the startup world and it's very hustle culture, right? It's very go, 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 do with the, do as much as you can with the least amount of resources and in the least amount of time. And it feels a little toxic. You said the word toxic there before, and it just made me think of that kind of time in my life where, yes, everything was very vegetable heavy, like sacrifice and do and like fight as much as you can. And it leads to burnout. Let's take a quick break to hear from the sponsors for today's episode. And when we come back, Alicia and I are going to talk about hustle culture and how we can start to move away from that go, go, go mindset that is so prevalent in our society.
I'm Margaret.
And I'm Amy.
And together we host the podcast, What Fresh Hell? Laughing in the Face of Motherhood.
Margaret, I would say you're sort of a where are my keys kind of mom.
Correct. Sometimes a where are my kids kind of mom. Well, you're aiming more of a, we were supposed to leave 35 seconds ago, Mom.
I mean, touche. In each episode of What Fresh Hell, we come at a topic from our usually completely opposite perspectives. I bring the research.
And I bring kind of the gimlet eye. Like, is that research really going to work, people?
And almost 10 million downloads later, we're still laughing.
We also talk to experts in the parenting field, plus parents with stories we can all learn from.
We make each other laugh, we challenge each other's assumptions, and we have what we think is the best parenting community on the internet.
Check out What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood, wherever you listen to podcasts.
So, yeah, I'm curious. You were saying we can get into that. How do we kind of switch that mindset? How do we get over that a little bit? Let's, dive into that. Go, go, go.
Yeah. So I think the goal with like this hustle culture, this toxicity, the goal is I've got to do my to-do list and I've got to get rid of my to-do list. I've got to get everything checked off and I've got to run myself into the ground until I do. And I'm going to burn the candle at both ends and exhaust myself is what ends up happening. But here is how I see it. And you're going to be like, what? The productivity expert's about to tell me not to check things off my list? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So wait for it. Here it comes. Your goal is not to get rid of your to-do list and check everything off. And here's why. Because the way that I teach this, you're actually going to end up with a quiet, calm mind where you feel effective, confident, successful, and in control. And the way that you do that, you actually end up with a longer list, but you end up with a quiet mind because you're capturing everything that's in your mind. You're capturing everything that's in there and you're getting it out on paper. And the way that we feel good about our lives now and live the lives we want to be living now is with this mindset shift and pursuing a different goal. Because when you're pursuing, think about like, what do you really want when it comes to your to-do list? What do you really want? My guess is you don't really want to do all the things. You do because you think you have to do all the things because that's what you're quote unquote supposed to do. You're supposed to check everything off, hustle, 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 and then that's how you get to have your fun. But if we're saying no, paradigm shift, we're not doing that. That's not what we're pursuing. Well, then what is it that you want? What is it that you're chasing after? You want to spend time on the things that matter to you. You want to feel calm. You want to feel like a quiet mind, peaceful, not overwhelmed. You want to feel confident, not discouraged. You want to feel like you can get to the end of the day and feel successful with how your day went, as opposed to getting to the end of the day and being like, what did I do all day? I ran around. Like, do I even know what I did? I just did all the urgent stuff all day. I put out fires all day. Like, can I even remember like what I did? And then you get to the end of the day and you feel discouraged. You feel defeated. Maybe even feel like, well, there I go, being a failure again. Like, let's not do that, right? Let's not do that to ourselves, please. Well, the way that we get out of this is we got to change the way we relate to our to-do list. And the new goal is that you have a quiet, calm mind where you feel effective, confident, successful, and in control. And the way that we get there is by really having a solid to-do list management system and working that system. And that there's a way that you approach it where no, you're not trying to get everything checked off. Instead, you're trying to get everything accounted for and then build and create intentionally from that space. Because then, sure, yeah, of course you still get things done. I know we're awesome people living awesome lives. We've got full plates, right? There's stuff that we want and need to get done. And we can do that in this context of having this quiet, calm mind, feeling effective, feeling confident, feeling successful, feeling in control. You don't have to wait until the to-do list is done in order to feel how you want and relate to your to-do list in the way that you want. So it's this like shift, this mindset shift that's really important to stop that hustle. Stop the like, oh, I've got to do it all. I've got to do it all. Like, just let me do it all. Like, nix that. Try to get that out of here because when you do, like I said, you'll still get stuff done. And your focus will be how you are being in your life while you're getting the stuff done, as opposed to getting the stuff done so that you can be who you want to be and how you want to be.
Right. Putting the prioritization elsewhere on the life you want. And then the to-do list is the productivity tool you use to kind of keep yourself on track. But really, I love how you're shifting that. Okay, so how do you set up your to-do lists? Or do you want to start with how do we quiet our mind? You dropped a lot there. So how do you generally like to tell people to start? If they're like, okay, woo, okay, mind blown, but I'm just used to taking out my Post-it note and writing down all the 9 million things I have to do today. And if that's not what I'm supposed to be doing, well, then what am I supposed to be doing? Let's take one more quick pause, and then Alicia will walk us through the system for setting up our to-do lists. You do not want to miss her advice here.
Yeah, so let's talk about a few things first. Let's talk about the format of our list, right? So I don't, even though I'm talking about that you're going to have a longer list, I do not recommend just one big long list. I recommend a system, which we'll get to in a little bit, but no one big long list. Because what do you do with a big long list? You look at it and you say, ah, and then you like want to go hide it somewhere, right? Because it's just overwhelming. So no big long list, no scraps of paper, no like little scrap of paper here, little napkin there, little this, little that, no scraps of paper. And even I know Post-it notes feel like I love Post-it notes, right? They're like they feel so organized. I'm like, I'm using a Post-it note. Like I like, like Post-it note, right? Like the Post-it note people have like done their job and like, oh, like, yeah, done their marketing that like I have like a feeling, a good feeling associated with using Post-it notes, right? And the colors and the whatever. Yeah. Okay. But even still, even as much as I, love me some Post-it notes, no, I don't want your list to exist in accumulated like in a cloud, in a dust cloud of like Post-it notes just kind of like rising up. Like, no, we don't we don't want that either. Okay. So these are some of the ways we're not gonna do our to-do list. I'll get to what we do with our to-do list in a little bit here, but there's one other important point about how we approach our to-do list that I think really matters. And I teach that you're going to have a prioritized to-do list, not a categorized to-do list. And this really matters because, okay, in this day and age of things like Trello, I know Trello is super popular, right? A lot of people love and use Trello. And in Trello, it's like super fun to make boards, and the boards, you can make them pretty. And then you've got a board for family, and you've got a board for house projects, and you've got a board for your kids and what you got all your different boards for all these different things. But the problem is when we organize our to-do list by category like that, you open up your Trello or you open up whatever you're doing, and can you within 20 seconds tell me what you need to do next? Probably not. Probably not, depending on how you have it set up. It's probably set up by category, not by priority. And so that's the problem when we organize by category is yes, it's all organized. And so it can be deceiving because you're like, but it's organized. Yeah, but it's not that functional or that informative to help you use it as a tool, right? Like, so I love talking about productivity, but I don't love talking about productivity so much that I want to just do productivity for the sake of productivity. I want you to do productivity so you can get on out there into your big, beautiful life and do big, beautiful things. Not so you can just like be the queen of to-do lists or be the queen of post-it notes or, whatever. So we need it to be prioritized because then that informs us like, oh, here's what I have said matters next. That's what's most important. That's what I'm going to do. And then you don't spend like 20 minutes like looking through all your boards like, okay, what am I going to do next? What sounds good? What feels good? What kind of seems like it needs to be done? No, we've already got it because the system is prioritized and that's what we need. So list format matters. Prioritization, not categorization, matters. The goal of what we're trying to achieve with the to-do list system matters. So all these things are kind of like the overarching umbrella that we need to start so that now we can kind of zoom in on, okay, well, what does this system look like? So I said a lot again. I'm I'm going to pause myself so that you have a chance to speak because this is your show after all. So,
Oh gosh, no, it's fine. I love the, gosh, dropping knowledge is fantastic. Okay, so I do love the prioritization versus categorization. Totally true. And you're right. Like when we just write it all down and we don't say this is what I have to do first, this is what I have to do second. So there's obviously some planning that comes involved. So how do we start to make the right priorities that are actually going to push us in the right direction that we want to go? Because I think that can feel really overwhelming too, of like, I don't know, I just want this end goal. I don't know how to prioritize that.
yeah. So, okay. So we need the system first, and then you're going to use this system to get where you want to go. So let's talk about what this is. So I'm going to give you like the overview of the system. And if you're like, this sounds cool, I want and need more, then what you're going to want to do is catch my free workshop, the only to do list system you need to get your busy life under control today. That is going to really like dig deeper because that workshop is a workshop in and of itself. Like if we were to do that whole workshop now, we would be on this interview for like the rest of the day, right? So we're not going to do that. So I'm going to give you like the starting point so you can have a quick win today and start down your to-do list journey today, and then go snag yourself a spot in my workshop and then continue your learning goodness there. But here's what you need. It has two pieces to it. You need an in tray. Also, I call it like a capture system. You're going to need that. And then you're going to need one central list that's organized by priority. So the in tray, this capture system, this is where everything, all of those thoughts. So you were saying before, like, what do we do about all like the stuff that's upstairs in the brain, like going and swirling? I call it the mind swirl. What do we do with the mind swirl? We got to capture it. We got to put it in the in tray. So you got a thought, you catch the thought, you put it in. You catch the thought, you put it in. So when people are like, like I used to feel this way, I was like, where's the off switch? Where's the off switch? I can't make the noise stop in my head. Yeah, this is how we do it, right? So you got to get in the habit of doing what I call an ongoing brain dump. You, like, again, catch the thought, put it in the system. So you've got like, oh, I need to text that friend. If you're not going to do it right then, put it in the system. Text friend later, or whatever. Text whatever friend, or text your sister, or oh, we ran out of blah. Put that in the system. Oh, I meant to tell my boss that. Put it in the system. Oh, my kid's permission slip form, school uniform, ran out of pencils, whatever, in the system. It all, every like ideas. Ooh, I'd like to travel to such and such place in the system. Ooh, I'd like to, uh, here, in honor of your recent summit, I'd like to build a capsule wardrobe in the system, right? Like all these things in the system, put it in there, right? So you're capturing, it's the capture system, the in tray. This is where everything gets funneled into from life, all the different areas. It all goes into this one place. Now, I recommend doing this if you are a digital person, a smartphone person, do it on your phone, right? You're going to have one app on your phone. I recommend one called Microsoft To Do. I'm not affiliated with them. Wouldn't that be cool if I was an affiliate of Microsoft? But I'm not. I'm not. They have a free, this app is free. Their software is free. It works well. It does what I want it to do. I teach you all about that in my free workshop. But you could use Trello in a prioritized way, not a categorized way, like I was talking about just a couple minutes ago. But you could use Microsoft To Do, Trello, Asana,
I use Notion. I love Notion.
Notion, Google Tasks, right? There's like all sorts of ways. But the point is that you're using you're using one digital place to keep all this, and you're going to organize it and set it up in this prioritized way that I dive into deeper in the workshop. But also, sometimes in life, we're here, there, and everywhere. And sometimes we also need some physical capture spots. So I recommend one digital spot that we just talked about. And then you might have some physical spots like a command center, like a blackboard, a whiteboard, post-it notes. You might use post-it notes, a pad of paper. A personal favorite of mine is I have aqua notes in the shower. I love aqua notes. It's so handy. It's this little pad of paper that can go in the shower. And inevitably, when I'm in the shower, I'm like, oh, and I have some idea or something that I remember to do. Well, by the time I would get out of the shower previously, that would be gone. But now I write it down on my aqua notes. So you got this digital capture spot and these physical capture spots if that is useful to you. Because sometimes it's hard to always get everything into the digital system right away, right? So we do maybe have a few extra, strategic locations around our house, around our office, around our life, whatever it is. But then this is the second part, the one central list. At the end of the day, we're taking all those bits and we're making sure they're all going into that digital spot, because we're not just having a to-do list or these multiple lists, right? We're cultivating a to-do list management system. So we got to gather it all together and put it into one central place. And then that's the place where we're organizing by priority. And when we do that, then we're able to just easily navigate it and also use it as the tool it's meant to be, as opposed to this like all consuming, daunting, overwhelming kind of beast that it sometimes can become. So we kind of put it in its place in the same way that like your calendar, right? Your calendar is just meant to be a calendar. You just put appointments in there, put social functions, put whatever, right? It's just a calendar. It's hopefully, I mean, maybe your calendar is overwhelming, people listening out there. Maybe you have an overwhelming calendar too. And right, we can, that's like a separate or separate topic and conversation for another time. But the idea is you've got a calendar, that's just a tool. It's just a functioning place where you put appointments and events and things with dates and times. The to-do list management system is just a tool, right? It's just where you're putting those things those ideas you have, those tasks, those projects, those goals, those whatever, and that's just where it lives. And then you've got your tools so that you can effectively and intentionally plan your life, live your life, operate your life in a way that works smoothly with ease, so that you're enjoying, like I said, you're enjoying the life you're living, and it just feels great and it works well. And then it's just like, yeah, let's do, you know, let's live our amazing lives, our awesome lives in a way that just like feels so different and it works. Yeah, it's such a different way to just, yeah, it's just, please. If there's and like I love talking about this because I'm like, I want to live in a world where people think in this way, because it's just so different than like, hey, are you signing up for 5 million activities and like doing all this hustle? And like, no, no, no. Like, I want to live in a world where women are encouraged to do what I'm talking about, right? That's why I get on my soapbox and I like get all excited about this, is because this is what I want. This is what I want for women. And this is what I want for all people, right? And then when we are freed up in this way and that we're not consumed by like not being productive for productivity's sake, well, then, like, oh my goodness, the possibilities that open up for the impact that we can have on our families, our communities, our world. You can't be out there living your big, beautiful life if you're just all caught up in the nitty gritty of your to do list.
Yeah, it's interesting. I say the same thing about like, I get passionate too, because I just want women to feel the freedom of like actually living a life they want to be living, instead of that life that maybe they feel like they have to be living or they should be living, and that can get buried in stuff, and that can get buried in their to-do lists. I do want to make a point that I tell everyone that of course all of these things that we're talking about will be linked in the show notes. So if they missed it, one of the tools we talked about or your workshop, we will make sure of course those are linked in the show notes so they can just click on through. Makes it nice and easy for everyone. So yeah, I love it. You are speaking my language. Okay, so let's get back to the prioritizing though part, because you were going to talk about we have the system. We have the two things we have to do. We have to have our capture system, our in tray, and then we have to have our central list. And it sounded like you were, from that central list, going to talk about prioritizing a little bit. Am I correct?
So, because the other thing too is, even once you have the system set up, building, being able to prioritize, like I say, it's a muscle, right? It's a muscle. So it's something that we need to practice. It's not something that we're born with. It is a skill. Prioritizing is a skill. And when it's a skill, that means that you can learn it, and that means you can improve it, and that means you can master it, right? Just like playing the violin, just like learning how to paint, just like learning how to cook, just like any of it, right? So prioritization, There are a few ways. So you've got your prioritized system, right? But let's actually talk about how, like, once you have your system set up and you've got your ongoing brain dump, you're capturing your thoughts, you're putting it in. Well, then what? How are you going to think about prioritizing? What are you going to do? There's a bunch of ways that you can think about prioritizing, but let's talk about just a small handful, right? So there's the very popular Eisenhower matrix. I'm sure probably people listening, you may be familiar with this or you may not. If you Google it, you'll see it's a big square divided into four squares. And we are looking at our tasks by urgency and importance, right? And so each box is a different combination of those two. So we've got things that are urgent and important, things that are urgent but not important. Then we've got things that are important but not urgent, and not important and not urgent, right? So we've got our four different quadrants and our four different areas. And based on those and organizing things in this way, then we can start to say, oh, okay, I'm seeing what's more important and what's less important, what's going to move up in the list, what's not, right? We can also look at this, and this kind of goes along with the urgency and the importance, but just does anything have a flat out due date, right? So when we're prioritizing, like, okay, what actually has a due date? And let's make sure those are rising to the top of the priority list and they're not getting missed, right? Because I know sometimes it's like, like stuff fell through the cracks, I missed stuff, right? Let's have those things in the proper place in the to-do list management system so that they're not getting missed. So those are two very like common and I think important and big ways to kind of look at prioritizing. Now, like there's of course other ways that you can think about it. Like you can think about prioritizing in terms of who, right? Like who is this important to? Is this important to you? Is this important to your kids? Is this important to your spouse or significant other? Or so you can be prioritizing in terms of that. You can be prioritizing in terms of, and I'm not saying like pick one, you're going to do kind of a conglomeration, a mishmash here of a bunch of these, right? But you can be prioritizing by, are you looking to have like a solid, like, yeah, like I'm gonna put in some effort and do this? Or are you looking to have like an easy, like quick wins kind of day, right? So if you're prioritizing by like what kind of energy do I have? What kind of space am I in right now? This is not my wheelhouse, but there are people who talk about cycle syncing, right? And that you are productive in this cycle way, you're going to you're going to approach productivity in this way, right? So that's another way that you can think about it. Kind of how is your energy ebbing and flowing throughout the month? Which is kind of where are you emotionally, your energy, your emotions, and you can think of it in that way in terms of, okay, what am I bringing to the table today in terms of how I can approach prioritization or approach my tasks or not. So how we feel, but then also how we want to feel when the task is done. Do we want to feel like, oh yeah, I accomplished all of these like little things and that was cool. Like we want to feel that way, or like, ooh, no, I got a big thing done and I broke it into little baby steps and I kept at it and now it's done. And that's like a different feeling, but also like really cool. Right. So there's all these different ways that you can think about prioritization that can really help you kind of sift through this stuff.
I think that's interesting. I think also what you were saying there about like your energy level and just knowing how you operate, I think that's something that's helped me a lot too, especially this week. So I'm just coming off of when we record this will come out a little bit later because I'm prepping ahead of time for the summer. But just before this week was my second summit just wrapped up. And after my first summit, I gave myself time off on purpose. But I realized that it was really hard for me to get back into it. And so this week I understood I am an extrovert, so I get energy from other people. So I specifically booked some interviews this week because I knew that would help me get back into that level of the energy stasis that I need, because I enjoy these conversations and I enjoy talking to people. So I do think sometimes, even if we have a big thing, right? Like I could have said like, oh, that drained a lot of my energy, I should take some time off. Maybe you just need to figure out how you bring your energy in. Like, I'm an extrovert. I need to talk to people in order to build my energy back up. My husband's an introvert. He needs the time away. Like, he needs to just recharge and take some time to himself, which is great. And it took us a while to figure that out. But once we did, it was lovely. But I think too, right, like you said, with bring your own energy. The woman that I've been doing some of her classes on Peloton, is she's like a BYOE, bring your own energy. And I think that's so true. Like when we can think about how we operate, our modus operandi, like what is the way that fills us up? And it's okay if it's not the same as someone else. It's not going to be the same as someone else. So taking a moment to tap into how you operate and then working your priorities around that as well, I think is really helpful. So, no, awesome information. Yeah, really helpful.
Yeah. No, I love that because you could also use this concept of introversion, extroversion in your productivity, right? Like you're talking about when your energy has been depleted, doing what it is that you need to build yourself back up. So you're feeling like good and ready to kind of jump back into life again. However, along with that, you could also approach your prioritization and your productivity from this space of, I've had a lot of, so in your case, right? I've had a lot of extrovert time lately, or I've had not a lot of extrovert time lately. And so right now, because prioritization does not need to look the same all the time. Let me just put that out there, right? So if you're thinking like, I'm going to prioritize once and then I'm going to be done. Well, no, because your life is going to be constantly shifting, right? Like like I said, got big, beautiful lives, awesome people living awesome lives. Like it's going to be moving and shaking and changing it up, right? So there are going to be times where you're like, yeah, Deanna, you've had a lot of extrovert time, or you've not had a lot of extroverted time, right? So you might want to think like, okay, right now I'm going to prioritize based on what tasks, like let's say you had a low extroverted time and now you want to like have some more of that interaction to build yourself up. I'm going to pick tasks that either I need to do with someone else, like maybe one of the tasks on your list is your kids need new shoes, right? So this is like a task that you got to do with your kids, right? Or maybe you want to declutter your garage and this is something that you were going to do with your spouse, right? Now, some you could declutter your garage by yourself, but I feel like that's a really big, like kind of family project, right? Well, so that is like a priority, a project that you're doing with others. But let's say you just had a big extroverted time and you're like, I need to like take a minute. Well, then do those little, or not sometimes little or big, but solo tasks where you're just like, you know what? I want to reorganize, again, in honor of your recent summit. I want to reorganize my closet or declutter my closet, and that's something that that's a me thing. That's just a me thing. And I'm gonna do that. Right. And then that's like a solo thing. And that helps you balance where you need to be in terms of this introversion, extroversion thing and replenishing or balancing your energy kind of there. So it's another way to think of prioritization. But what I said that I think is really key to take away here is that what is our priority is not going to look the same all the time. And how we prioritize is not going to look the same all the time, which is exactly what people who talk about cycle syncing and that whole topic area, there are people who specialize in that. They're talking a lot about looking at where are you hormonally, where are you emotionally with your energy throughout the month as things move and shift for us as women with our natural cycles.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, I love that. And I mean, everything in life is a season, right? So this week is different than next week. And, this season of year is different than the next season of the year as we're heading into the summer, right? Obviously, our energies are changing and very different than if we're at the beginning of the year kind of a thing. So, yeah, so both monthly and annually and seasonally, we just have to look at where are we right now and plan for where we are right now. Alicia, this has been fabulous. And I could talk to you all day long. Obviously, this is a really fun topic, but where can people find you? Because I know you've mentioned your workshop. So where can people find you, find that workshop, and reach out if they want more info?
Yeah, the best way to find me is just on my website, Alicia Cohen Designs. That's my business, aliciacohendesigns.com. On there, you can find my social media links. You can find my free resources. You can find, I mentioned my membership. I've got a signature course. All of my paid offers, free offers, my events, all the different things. You can join my email list, all that good stuff. That is all at aliciacohendesigns.com. That's really the best way to find me and get into my world. And then, like you said, you're going to have the link to my workshop in the show notes. So you can check that out too. That's kind of really, I think, the simplest way for directing people.
Love it. All right. That's great. All right. And then my favorite way to end every episode is with 3 rapid fire questions. And so the first one is, what does clutter-free mean to you?
Clutter-free to me means peace. And yeah, it just means peace. When I think about envisioning that, just peace. That's what it means.
Succinct and easy. I love it. And then what is making you happy right now or in this season of life? Speaking of seasons.
Yeah. Oh, I love talking about seasons, but that's also another topic for another day. So yeah, what's making me happy in this season of life? So I'll answer for my current season, right? My current season, I have 3 little kids. And what makes me happy is just watching them, seeing what their personalities are kind of shaping and emerging and what's going on there, their interests, and just how little kids, they have such wonder and the discovery that they're constantly in this realm of discovery. I just think it's so cool watching them interact with the world and with life. So that's got me pretty happy and joyful right now in this season of parenthood and motherhood and just life.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. And number 3, what is a goal you have for yourself this year?
I kind of mentioned this as an example, but maybe I mentioned it as an example because it's also like my real life is I would like to declutter our garage. So we moved in, actually it's been a few years at this point, but we moved into the house, the house that we're currently in, our new house, not all that long ago, or at least that's how it feels. And so while we've been tackling, project after project and getting things the way we want, one thing that hasn't been super urgent is decluttering the garage. But it would be nice to do and have that done. And so a goal and a project goal that I have for myself for 2024 is to get that garage, even if it's not fully done, but at least decluttered and starting to put some more organization in there like we have in the rest of our house. But the garage is like, well, there are other areas that were more important and more pressing to do first. So now it's the garage's turn. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, well, your office looks very nice and neat and organized, very minimalist there. It looks great. So, and you're just following that Eisenhower matrix, right? The things that were important and were more urgent got done first. So, like I said, walking that walk, which is what we talked about at the beginning. So, yeah, I love that. And yeah, and now it is a priority. Now it is something where it has moved to the forefront, and especially with you living in the Northeast, doing that this summer while the weather is nice, I'm sure is, another little factor in there to get that fire lit and get it done. So that's awesome.
Cool. No, thanks for having me on your show.
Of course, Alicia, I loved having you and we'll do it again sometime for sure.
That sounds great.
All right. Cheers. That conversation was so good, right? Well, aside from our slightly awkward goodbye. But anyway, the information was so great. I love connecting with other women who are passionate about their topics, just like I am. And she even said it too. She wants to live in a world where women are fired up and passionate about living their true, authentic lives. And I am all on board with that. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode. What stuck out for you the most? Are you going to change up how you do your to-do lists? If so, I want to know. So come on over and comment on this post on Instagram or send me a DM. I am at Wannabe Clutter Free on the social channels. Or come on over to the Wannabe Minimalist family group on Facebook and share there with the community. It's a private group and we would love to connect with you. We'll have a discussion thread for this post as well. And we'd just love to connect with you on this topic or any topic. And you can also leave a review on Apple Podcasts, a comment on Spotify, or you can comment on this episode on YouTube. And remember, if you know someone who could use some help managing their to-do lists and managing their time, well, go ahead and share this episode with them. It might just be the thing that they need today. And again, having that partner or someone on this journey with you is going to help you progress that much faster as well. All right, and of course, a special thanks to Alicia for joining us on today's show and for sharing her tips about how to protect our time. Remember to head to those show notes to get her links for everything that she mentioned in today's episode. And as always, thank you the most to you for joining me today. With that, I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you back here next week for a solo show. Until next time, take care, keep things simple, work on your priorities, not your categories, and remember that I believe in you. I'm Deanna Yates, and you've been listening to Wannabe Clutter Free. I'll see you next week. Cheers.